Hey, there's a question that I'm often asked, and it's whether there is any hope of seeing our country be less polarized. And the answer is a very strong maybe. Yeah, that sounds about as solid as a 4-year-old being asked if he'd rather have ice cream or a cupcake for breakfast. But the answer is actually found right there in the text of our Constitution, most specifically in the Bill of Rights and the 10th Amendment. Although long ignored, the 10th Amendment simply states, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Now, it's just one sentence, but the key to getting our government to function again in the interest of all people, Democrat or Republican, is right there. You see, the founders really wanted a very small and limited federal government. It was their very strong belief that the best government was the most local government because it was closer to the people being governed. And therefore, it would make decisions in the people's interest, since those making the laws had to live among the people most affected. And the brilliant men who created our government would gag if they showed up in Washington, D.C. today. But not just for the reasons that we gag every day watching what they do to us, okay? No, they would be shocked and angry at the sheer size of the federal government and the extent to which our current federal government has become involved in every aspect of our lives. Because they envisioned a truly limited government that essentially just made sure that we had an adequately funded Army and Navy, and that people could really travel and conduct business within the various states, and that they would be able to make treaties with other nations for the interest of peace. Everything else would be decided at the state, the county, or even the community level. And that's what the 10th Amendment says. But that's not what we do. And having so much government in a centralized place, so far from most of the people being governed, but in a city where television cameras and news outlets are as ubiquitous as Michael Bloomberg's TV ads, you see, everyone wants to be a star in Washington, even more than they want to govern. And so we get more show, but less flow. It's been suggested that the worst thing to happen to Washington was air conditioning. If you've ever been there, you know it's so hot in D.C. during the summer that Congress, they didn't meet very much until air conditioning was invented. And then these guys stayed year-round, and the country has been in a mess ever since. Now, the truth is, when Washington, D.C. makes the decision for all 50 states, they usually just don't realize that Mississippi is different than Massachusetts, that New York is not the same as New Mexico, and California is not the same as, well, anybody. Anybody. I mean, if those decisions were made by states, the policies would reflect the unique needs and populations of those states. Most of the amendments to the Constitution are truly improvements, but one that was disastrous was the 17th Amendment. And I'll bet most folks don't even know what it did. Did you know that until 1913, U.S. senators were appointed by state legislatures? They weren't elected. They were appointed by the state legislatures so that they would protect the states from federal overreach, and they would maintain the 10th Amendment. But after the 17th Amendment, senators were elected by popular vote. And frankly, on first glance, seems like a good idea. But the result is that people elected to federal office have far more power as long as the federal government keeps growing bigger and bigger. And it's become very big, but very unproductive. So can we see the government less polarized and more productive? Yep. But it might start with repealing the 17th Amendment and dismantling a whole lot of Washington that was never supposed to be there anyway. Wait, don't click that button. Well, unless it was the subscribe button, and then carry on. And while you're down there, hit that little notification bell too. Oh, and if you leave a like and a comment, I will personally give my dog Toby a treat. Leave a like, feed a dog, as I always say.